we've been together for coming into 5 years, and we say something which I think to a lot of people feels very unromantic, but we'll be together for as long as we choose to, and it makes sense. Like the day we no longer want to choose to be in the relationship with each other, it's time to let go of the relationship. Yeah. Because I think love should be a choice. To me, that's the most pure form of love, when it's a choice, when it's freely given, not when it's just
conditional.
expected. Yes, conditional, exactly.
Also, it's very easy to take each other for granted. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Love, Laughs, and Lessons. And I'm Dr. Frankie.
And I'm Denise Ray. And today's guest is Lucy Price. Lucy is a breakup and relationship coach whose work is shaped by her own powerful healing journey. Back in 2000, and Lucy, you'll correct me later if I'm wrong, 18, Lucy was in an on-again, off-again relationship with someone who didn't want to commit, but didn't want to let go either. At the time, she couldn't see the emotional abuse clearly. What she could feel was the constant anxiety, the overthinking, and the deep, exhausting pull to keep trying to make it work. When the relationship finally ended, Lucy did what many of us would do. She searched everywhere for advice, but the tips she found felt outdated and hollow. A year later, and she still wasn't over it. In fact, she felt worse, like she should have moved on by now, and she couldn't. Everything changed when she hired her first coach. Within 2 months, she experienced the shift that she'd been chasing for over a year. That transformation became the catalyst for her next chapter, leaving her corporate job, stepping into coaching, and building a practice focused on helping others heal after heartbreak. Lucy now helps people break free from obsessive thinking, regulate their emotions, and reconnect with their sense of self through a clear, proven process she developed called the Moving On Formula. Today, we're talking with Lucy about what it really takes to move forward, build relationships, and anything else that comes up, because this is where we are. Lucy, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
I think most of us can relate to that feeling of like, we can't let go. We're so connected, attached to somebody, and we love and care for them so much, but we know deep in our hearts and our souls that it's just not right.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in it, I was in the thick of it. And I felt like this confusion, because on the one hand, I knew that this wasn't a good relationship. This wasn't what I ultimately wanted. And then on the flip side of that, I was so attached to this person, and I couldn't imagine letting them go either. I had built up all of these ideas of what I thought the relationship was going to be, what I thought was possible for us. Frankly, who I thought that person was. I almost built up this fantasy version of this person. And it was almost those things that kept me coming back. And I very much struggled. I know Denise already mentioned this, but I struggled for about a year to get over this person, 2 years to get over this person. And it wasn't until I started to switch things up and learn different tools and techniques than the standard things you find online that I was really able to move forward. And I think a lot of us feel this struggle of, okay, I'm doing all the things the internet tells me to do, but I'm still not over my ex. And what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
And even in it, though, with that feeling of like, oh, I know that they're going to get better. I know it's going to get better. If I do all these things, it'll shift things and it's going to get better for both of us. And you can spin your wheels as much as you want. It doesn't mean that another person's going to change their behavior.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
I think too, what's confusing is that sometimes the good times are really good times. And then the bad times, you're like, oh crap, we're right back here again. You know? So the highs and the lows of the relationship can make us feel so confused as well.
That roller coaster is definitely something that I experience, is what a lot of my clients experience. And I think that's what ends up being so mentally confusing sometimes is you'll go through a really rough patch and you'll be like, we can't keep doing this. I need to move out from this. Or, let me just try harder. Let me change something about myself. If I invest more, if I be this kind of person that I think they want me to be, then they'll recommit. And then you'll have this high period where everything's going well, everything feels good. And you'll be like, why was I even thinking about ending the relationship? Only for a week later, it to go back to the way it was of this rupture. And I think that's where, for me, something that thankfully a friend of mine kind of pointed out. She's like, Lucy, you're getting stuck in these moments and you're not paying attention to the pattern. And the pattern is you keep having these highs and lows. The pattern is you're the one who keeps trying and he doesn't care. And until you realize that this is a pattern and let go of the momentary highs, you're not actually going to feel better and move forward from this.
They make you euphoric. Those highs, they're addicting because they feel that when you reconnect in that way, it's so energizing and exciting and you're full of hope. And then only to find a week or two later, or maybe a little longer, depending on how long he can keep it together, it's crap. You're back to where you were. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're always chasing that next high too. It's like our bodies love oxytocin and dopamine. And so when you get attached to a person and you think that person's making me feel happy and making me feel this way, you just keep chasing it again and again and again.
So then there's like this toxic addictive cycle. That's really hard to break.
Absolutely. And it's what kept me stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us, like, what helped you get unstuck? It sounds like you engaged a coach. You realized, wait, this is, and thank God we have our peeps, right? Our friends that even if we only have one friend in our lives that's really honest and direct, I find that I'm that friend that sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to cause harm, but I can't help but I got to tell you this. I got to tell you because you're my friend. Yeah. You're not my acquaintance.
And to me, that's true friendship, right? Being able to say, hey, I'm going to say the hard thing to you that I know might upset you, that I know may even risk our friendship, but I care about you so much that I need to tell you what I'm seeing here. And thank goodness I had friends like that at the time. And I'll be truthful and say, like, at the time, that was hard for me to hear that kind of truth, to have those kinds of reflections. But I think it was partly those outside perspectives, not dragging him down. I mean, I had a couple of friends be like, he's a jerk, get rid of him, all that kind of stuff, of course. But I think just people looking at me in the eyes and going, Lucy, you are not who you are right now. Like, you are not yourself. You are not acting in accordance of your values. This is not what you've told me you want in a relationship, and I need to reflect that back to you. So I definitely think that having those perspectives were helpful. Yeah. But I think, like, at the start of my process, I did the standard things of I went onto Google and Google told me, hey, you just need to sleep with other people. You just need to distract yourself. Just give it time. And I'm like, okay, it's been 2 years. How much time do I need to give this? You know what I mean? Like, how much do I need to wait this out? So I did all the stereotypical things that I thought you were supposed to do to get over a breakup. And I didn't find that any of it really helped. It's like, okay, distracting felt good for a day, but then everything would just come up at night when I didn't have anything to busy myself with. I didn't have anything to focus on. It would just get to the end of the night and I would just replay all these things. And I think that's what a lot of people experience. It's like, okay, you can distract yourself, you can shut things down. But when you're with yourself in the quiet of 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, like, it's all going to come back up again. Yeah. So I struggled with that for about 2 years. And then I made the decision that I needed to just try something. I was scrolling on Instagram and I basically found a life coach who was talking about breakups. And I was like, life coaching, what's that? I've never heard of life coaching before. It was my first exposure to any sort of coaching. And so I decided to go ahead and sign up with her. And she wasn't specific on breakups, but she was really helpful around relationships in general. And she started to teach me a few mindset techniques to help me reestablish different thinking patterns. And I realized that was so much of what was keeping me stuck because I was stuck in the same mindset, the same beliefs, the same routine of putting my ex on a pedestal, of beating myself up. And it wasn't until I started to learn how to change my thoughts and my beliefs that I was able to start feeling and acting differently. So I would say that was the biggest shift for me in terms of moving forward. And it's what I work with a lot of my clients on now is, okay, what are the thoughts and what are the beliefs you're coming out of this relationship with? And how is that causing you to feel, act, and what patterns are you establishing from that point?
So are there certain hallmark or specific behaviors that your ex was doing that was creating this situation that you can identify now and share with?
In hindsight, I would say one of the top things that I struggled with from that breakup that I realized I had then a different belief on was I would go through this process of I was stonewalled in the relationship. So there would be something that would happen. There would be some error, quote unquote, that I committed. And then it was just complete shut off from that point. And, you know, the compassionate side of me can go, okay, I was more anxiously attached, you were more avoidantly attached, or anything else. But also, like, at a certain point, you're like, okay, you got to learn how to be an adult and communicate, like, in a relationship, because this is not kind or compassionate.
How long did it go for the shut off, the stonewalling?
Yeah. So for on and off for about a year and a half.
But in what lengths of time?
It was like a month. It was like a month at a time.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
Or not complete shut off. Like there were little pieces, but nothing
like
real.
Affection deprivation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Communication.
holding it back.
Yeah.
And you feel it and you keep trying to reach for it and try to be overly loving and effusive, right? Try to get them to get back to baseline. And they're
figure out the right thing you can say to get them to want to talk to you and open up again, or figure out what you did wrong. Because that was the other thing. I never got told what I did wrong. You know, it was just that he was unhappy. And so from there, I developed a belief that there was, you know, this is kind of generalizing it a little bit, but there was something wrong with me. I was too emotional. I was too dramatic. I was a damsel in distress who needed a guy to come and save her. Like, those beliefs were the probably top 3 beliefs I got out of it.
So it's not that he actually said that and called you those things, because I want listeners to really think about this. The person doesn't actually have to even say it to you, that you're so weak, you're worthless, like all these kinds of things. But because they're withholding, and by the way, stonewalling is one of the horsemen, one of the 5 horsemen, is super toxic to relationships, right? So you started to think that there was something wrong with you.
Yeah.
You're a bad person. You know, you're not deserving. All of that. Yeah. Because I think people think like, oh, I'm not in an abusive relationship because my partner doesn't say these things to me. I'm making these things up about myself.
And that's where we can really trip ourselves up, right? Because then we go back to I'm the problem. And we don't take a step back and look at, but what's the dynamic that is creating this situation, these thoughts, these feelings within me? So there's a lot that he never said in that relationship, but actions speak a lot. And I think that's what we forget in relationships sometimes. Like, for example, like we're dating someone and we go, oh, they said they loved me. They said they cared about me. But then they're not actually caring about your feelings. They're not actually creating space for you to share how you feel. They're not carving time out of their day to come and see you. You're the one who's always initiating plans. Or if there's an issue, they'll just walk around and they won't bring it to you. Like, words are great. I love words. It's one of my, favorite methods of communication is words. But words without action is not actually helpful, I think. Like, it can make us think something that's not necessarily true when we ignore the behavior alongside of what someone's saying not saying.
Any other behaviors you can identify aside from stonewalling?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, there's deceit in the relationship. So this I found out later. I found out it was on again, off again, but during the time we were very much on again. There was a day where I was just over at his apartment. He left his iPad out. It was one of those settings where you can see the message as soon as it pops up. And yeah, my eyes lingered over to the screen when it popped up, and a woman's name who I didn't know.
Naturally.
Very clearly that they were meeting up later that night, that there was something going on there. Yes. And it completely threw me. So there was also lying within the relationship that I had come to find out later. And at some of the lies years later that I didn't know were even happening until I had fully ended that relationship. So there's a lot of deceit in the relationship as well. I didn't know a lot of it at the time. Like, you get feelings about something, but again, I was never the person who wanted to go digging for that sort of stuff. Like, I don't want to search for something to be wrong. When you get that feeling, it's hard to ignore, but I don't know. I have a standpoint of like, I want to be able to trust my partner. I want to be able to trust that they're not doing it. And that's healthy. And it's like, I want to trust that they're not doing anything wrong or doing anything that's outside of our agreements, outside of what we established our relationship to be. So that was really, really hurtful to learn about those things years later.
I think the only way to be in relationship is to choose to trust them. And if there's this sinking feeling coming in again and again, exploring that, is that something that I'm bringing from a past betrayals, Or is this something happening in the environment of my relationship right now that is putting up my spidey senses, that's making me feel insecure?
Yeah. But so often we're afraid to explore that because we're not really sure. And are we introducing something that's not like, now I'm being suspicious of him. Am I going to push him away because now I'm being so suspicious? Or is this really real? And like you said, Dr. Frankie, is this something that I'm bringing from a past relationship? So we sit with it and we fester.
Yeah. And for me, coming out of that relationship, I was more anxious, going into the world of dating because I was thinking to myself, well, what if this happens again? And I think we all have that in relationships too, right? Where someone breaks our trust or something happens and we just start carrying that weight with us moving forward. So I really had to think about, okay, this happened. How do I want to respond to this? And I learned through that process that at the end of the day, I can't control if someone decides to cheat on me. Like I can't control if someone decides to go out of the bounds for a relationship. That's out of my control. But what I can control is how I respond to it. What I can control is how I want to treat myself if that happens. And so I started to learn a lot of self-trust in that process of, okay, you know what? Even if this does happen again, can I trust that I'm going to be okay no matter what? Can I trust that I have the mental, emotional capacity to look after myself and act in alignment with my values and go after who I want to be and what I want to create in this relationship and all of my relationships? So that helped me a lot in that process. But sometimes, we do take things from our past relationships forward, and it can be confusing to piece out.
That's why a coach or a therapist is so valuable, because they can slow it down and they're outside of you and they can really just reflect things to you that you can't otherwise see on your own when you're in it. You get tunnel vision.
Yeah. And they can see your blind spots sometimes, They can help point out like, okay, you're saying you want this thing, but here's this thought pattern that's not going to help you get there. Or here's this behavior you keep doing that's going against what it is you say you want. So, and there's ways to do that lovingly, but I think having that reflection is priceless. Like really having someone say, hey, this isn't matching. And what do you actually want for yourself here?
Can you share with us some of the thoughts, because you talk about not rewiring, but reframing some of your belief systems. Can you give us one thought pattern that you had that the coach helped you reframe?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest thoughts I had to move past in my life was I'm always going to be second best. Like I'm always going to be the bridesmaid, never the bride, for example. And that's something that in part came up in that past relationship, just through the infidelity, also just through some of the things I noticed within the relationship of, okay, like you're with me, but I don't love how you're talking to, engaging with all these other people, like something's not sitting right. And so I always had this sense of like, oh, I'm always just going to be second best. I'm never going to be the one for somebody. And like, we can unpack what it means to be the one for someone as well. That's a whole other thing. But I had to really work past that because at the end of the day, the root of it was not enoughness. So I had a lot of like not enoughness going on. Mm-hmm. And so what she helped me do was she helped me understand, okay, like where's this thought coming from? And what helps to like instigate this thought within you. So like when we have a thought, often it comes from a stimulus. Something happens that triggers that thought within us. So it can be as little as, oh, someone avoided eye contact with you, or you thought someone avoided eye contact with you, and now this thought starts to be triggered. So she helped me understand, like, okay, when does this thought most often come up for you? How can you build awareness around that? And then when this thought comes up, how does it feel? How does it cause you to act? Again, just building up that awareness so you can spot it when it's actually happening. And what results are you getting from that point? So I would have this thought of, oh, I'm not enough. I'm always going to be second best when I was going out on dates with different people. And she helped me piece out, okay, like, what was it that caused that thought to spur? How did you feel? What actions did you take? And I noticed like on the date, I felt more closed off. I felt more insecure, more anxious. And so just being aware of those patterns to start off with. And I think that we have to develop awareness over our thoughts and our patterns and how we cause to feel before we can even really do anything about it. Because unless we're aware of it, it's really hard to change anything. So it started with awareness.
I just had one thought about that. One thing you said earlier on, it's like you were saying that you feel second best. And I almost feel like we have to choose ourselves first before we can show up in a really healthy capacity for somebody else. So in a way we are. So in my relationship, I'm second. My partner needs to choose, like self-care, self-growth, support system. All these things have to be in place in order for them to show up for me.
So it's so funny that you said that, because one of the things that helped me in the reframe of this particular belief was I can always put myself first.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool that you just said that, because that's a lot of what I think is true. We can always choose to nourish our relationship with ourselves. And I think that's something that gets missed so much just in daily life, because our brain's always in 1,000 different places. Like before this, I had client calls, I had work, I had emails I need to send. I was not necessarily thinking about self-love and self-compassion in those moments. And we can come up with 1,000 excuses of where self-love, self-kindness, it just gets pushed to the side time and time again. And just like any relationship, a friendship, a partner, a family member, a colleague, you have to take time to nourish that relationship if you want it to be a good and healthy relationship.
So true.
The same goes for you.
Yeah.
And we just miss this so much, I think, sometimes, because we get busy, we get distracted, we put other people before ourselves. And that's what I did for a long time. I put other people, especially people I was dating, before me. And I had to reestablish that.
Yeah.
Well, we've also been taught that that's selfish.
Especially
Right?
as female.
So as female, yeah, that's right. We're taught that that's selfish,
Absolutely.
We're supposed to, like, the other person is more important.
People pleasing.
People pleasing, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it starts with us becoming whole. We need to be able to confidently stand on our own, regardless of any, romantic relationship. And believe it and know that every day I'm choosing to be in this relationship because I want to be here. And I would be happy with my support system and my routines and the self-love that I have to be on my own.
Absolutely. And I think with this just made me think of something my partner and I say to each other, my boyfriend. We've been together for coming into 5 years, and we say something which I think to a lot of people feels very unromantic, but we'll be together for as long as we choose to, and it makes sense. Like the day we no longer want to choose to be in the relationship with each other,
That's it.
to let go of the relationship.
Yeah.
Because I think love should be a choice. To me, that's the most pure form of love, when it's a choice, when it's freely given, not when it's just
Conditional.
expected. Yes, conditional, exactly.
Also, it's very easy to take each other for granted. So if you think about it, like, wow, we're choosing to be here. I better, you know what I mean? I need to remember
get my
that.
stuff together, because she's got a choice too.
Absolutely. And I think that it allows you to let go of some of the grudges and resentment in the relationship too, when you do approach it that way, because you can just have an honest check-in moment with yourself of like, okay, this thing that's upsetting you, you're still choosing to enter into this relationship. Like, you have a choice. You could end the relationship if you wanted to, but something about this is making you want to be here. So how can you nurture the relationship? How can you lift it up? So on and so forth.
Yeah.
So just on reflection, it sounds like paying attention to your thought patterns, what triggers those thoughts that come up. Also, at the same time, doing your own, attending to yourself, self-love, self-worth, doing an inventory about like who you're surrounding yourself with. What kind of friends?
Yes.
Are they encouraging? Are they positive? Do they demonstrate healthy? Are they modeling healthy relationships?
One of the things that I did was I called them energy leaks. So I created a life wheel of my life. And I looked at my career, I looked at my friendships, my family relationships, just every aspect of my life. And I started asking myself, where are the energy leaks here? Like, where do I feel depleted? Where do I feel like I'm giving up part of myself? Where do I feel drained? and starting to figure out, okay, how can I patch those things up? Like, what relationships aren't supporting me? What parts of this career aren't what I want to do or are draining me of what I think my true gifts are in terms of the work I do in the world? And how can I patch those things up? And then how can I pour into, I called it like my self-love stream at the time, technical term, but like, how can I pour into myself? How can I pour into my cup, so to speak? And like really consciously uplift me. So like definitely thinking about life as a whole too, of where am I being energized? Where am I being depleted? What's serving me? What's not? And being a little bit ruthless about it too. Like, don't sugarcoat if someone isn't actually uplifting you in your life. Be real about it, because as soon as you can be real about it, you can start doing something about it. Maybe it's a hard conversation with that person. Maybe it's changing the relationships. Maybe it's ending the relationships, but at least then you can do something about it.
Yes, because that feeling, I have a client that I'm working with right now who's going through that. And that feeling of depletion is just like, it dampens her entire day, because it's this particular relationship she feels it in, but it's carrying over in every other thing that she does, you know?
And I think that it's actually really hard for humans to compartmentalize. Like, some people can do it and have to do it. Like, my partner works in hospitals. There's things he sees where like he has to leave them at the door sometimes, and he just has to figure that out. But it still affects him. There's still an off energy when he comes home on a bad day. You know, there's still like changes that you notice when you're actually being drained in your life in some way. So you can think you're compartmentalizing, but it's going to show up.
It does show
I think
up.
there's another important takeaway here. It's that you need to be driving the bus. Like, if you're aware of these things and you choose to continue, and you're continuing to observe, and you know that you know what it's happening, instead of just automatically you have this feeling, it doesn't feel good, and you're not driving.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in the back seat. I had a really great therapist. It was back in like 2019, 2020, because I tried therapy before hiring a coach. And, you know, it wasn't a good fit, and that's okay. But there was something that he said that like really stuck with me and made such a difference in my life. So sometimes you get a nugget, and that's, you know, just
Fun,
good.
yeah.
That's worth it.
Yeah, and it's worth it. But the nugget he gave me is like, anything you're choosing to do, you're choosing to do it at least 51% more than not doing it. Like, if everything you choose to do, there's something that's making you choose to do it. You don't actually have to go to work. Like, for a lot of us, we could just stay home. Are there going to be consequences to that? Absolutely. Everything you choose has a consequence to it, but you could choose to not do something, and you can choose to do something. And so that was one of those like harsh reality check moments. Like, I'm a tough love person. I kind of need some tough love sometimes. Like, don't get me wrong. I love a sweet, gentle reflection, but sometimes I need someone to be like, hey, this is what's going on. And you keep avoiding what's straight in front of you. I'm that kind of person. And so he gave me this reflection, and I, you know, it was a stinging reflection, but I thought about it for a while afterwards. And I started thinking like, okay, what are all the things I'm saying I'm not choosing in my life? And where am I at least 51% choosing it? And what is this, even just a slightly different choice I could be making? Because otherwise we're in the backseat of our lives. And this is me being potentially dramatic, but I also think we have this one beautiful life as far as we know.
And it's fast.
How do you want to, and it's fast. You know,
That's
like,
not
how
being
do you
dramatic
want
at
to
all.
spend it, right?
That's right. That's not being dramatic at all. That's real.
Yeah.
It's real talk.
And I think like after those moments in my relationships, you know, I thought back to all the relationships where I was chasing, I was trying to get someone who I thought was better than me to like me, like all of these striving things I was doing. And I had moments of reflecting back and being like, is this how I want to spend my life really? Do I want to feel this anxious and this bad for the rest of my life? And if not, I got to do something.
Yeah, like on a daily basis, if you feel your nervous system is like escalated, like you can't, it's not like you can't live, you can't thrive in that environment. You're just surviving every day.
Yep.
It's constant stress on the body too. Like, we physically feel it in the body.
Yeah.
Like, I joke, because one of the quickest ways I can tell if I'm stressed is my hips hurting. You know, it's like I'll notice hip pain before I notice that I'm emotionally stressed about something.
And that's important.
And it shows up.
Some of us can feel the somatic stress in our body much easier than others. Like, for me, it's very hard to notice that, because I physically have pushed as an athlete, I've pushed my body for so many years that like I'm a little, in a ways, I'm very connected to my body, but in other ways, there's a soreness all the time. So it's hard
Right.
for me. And it's so great when you can you practice, you can get better. I've worked on it and I've gotten better, but it's really, your body it speaks, it will tell you.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom, I think, that can be given through the body. And I think that's where becoming emotionally in tune, physically in tune with yourself can pay dividends for the rest of your life, because our body sends us messages too. You know, it's not just our minds. It's not just the thoughts we're thinking. Our bodies will send us cues and clues that are indicating, hey, you feel this way about this, and you know, go after this, don't go after that, things like that, where so long as we just get quiet for 2 seconds and start paying attention, we can gain a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I'm just like, I'm thinking, are there other aspects that you found were really helpful? Like, I imagine also there are people that are supportive of you making changes and other people in your life that maybe don't.
One of the things that I started doing was I realized that shame was keeping me stuck and secrecy was keeping me stuck. There was a lot about this relationship I didn't share with my peers, with my friends. And part of it was because I felt like I was trying to protect him. I was trying to not paint a bad picture about someone who I wasn't sure if I wanted to end the relationship yet. I wasn't like, this is someone I still cared about. So I realized that I had to start speaking and acknowledging certain things that happened in the relationship. So it was surrounding myself with like loving, uplifting people who wanted the best for me, and some people who held me accountable to the changes I wanted to make. But I also think it was just being honest about what it was that I was actually experiencing and going through, because I kept a lot of that hidden for a long time.
I think we're taught to. I think we're taught we're not supposed to be talking negatively about our partner.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we're fearful that if we're not certain we want to leave, that then this judgment or these opinions are permanent and they'll stick.
Right.
Yes.
So then you're isolated and being inauthentic. So it's like, it feels to me like a bit of a balance where you're sharing, but not every detail in a way, so that you don't feel like you're putting them on, your partner on, you know, I don't know. I think it's tough. It's tough.
It's tough. And I think that's where having, you know, certain people you go to like therapists or like coaches is so important, because it gives you, a neutral. Whereas like a friend, they have, at the end of the day, they have skin in the game somehow. You know, maybe their relationship with you, maybe they have a relationship with your partner. Doesn't mean that they're not going to be honest. Doesn't mean they're not going to be there for you, but they're not necessarily neutral. And I think that's where having an outside support system is really helpful.
Yeah.
And I think there's some sense of embarrassment that goes with it too, especially if, you know, this has happened before in different relationships and your friends have held you down and bared witness to this. You don't want to be like, gosh, I struck out again. Not gonna, you know, so.
And I was so embarrassed. You know, someone could look back at that relationship and be like, okay, here's all the red flags. Why did you just ignore them? And like the thought of someone saying that to me mortified me. Like, it took me a long time to feel comfortable just sharing all of the things I ignored, all of the things I chose not to look at. And I think that embarrassment comes up a lot, because the other thing, I notice this a lot with women, is like, we're always told, well, shouldn't you have known? Like, shouldn't you have seen it coming? Weren't there signs that they were going to be this way? And it's like, you know, I personally don't think that it's healthy to go into relationships looking for ways that your partner, someone you're meant to be in a loving partnership with, is hurting you or trying to deceive you. I just think there's a point at which it's not actually healthy to be doing.
Yeah.
I also think it takes time for people to really trust and, you know, build a sense of safety in the relationship. And sometimes when people are, like many of us have been hurt, have been betrayed, have had trauma to varying degrees, when we enter into a relationship, we can seem more avoidant, for example, or seem more anxious because we have histories and we're not sure yet about this person that we're dating. So it makes us act in different ways that could change over time. And it doesn't mean it's pathological. It doesn't mean like, oh, red flags here. This is somebody who seems avoidant. They're, they're feeling some kind of way and you haven't heard from them for 24 hours. Red flags, red flags. So it's important to not, and now with all this armchair therapy on TikTok, and Denise hears me talk about all the time, drives me crazy. It's very black and white.
Yeah.
And we live in the gray. Humans, there's a lot of nuance.
I think that's one of the most like heartbreaking things about places like Instagram and TikTok is because in a lot of ways it makes information accessible, which is great. And on the flip side of that, frankly, in order to be like picked up from the algorithm, sometimes it's like you need to be punchy, you need to be polarizing, you need to be black and white. You need to say the one true thing or the one top thing about X, Y, and Z. And relationships are a nuance party. Like there's so much gray area. There's so much context in relationships that you're not ever, ever, ever going to get in a 30, 60, 90-second video. It's not possible. But
there's no one size fits all.
Right. But sometimes we like look at Instagram, we go, oh, I got therapy today because I watched a 60-second video about
narcissist.
Narcissist or
now I'm the expert.
And now I know everything.
I'm diagnosing.
And my ex was a narcissist and my other ex was a like it just we have to pause, I think.
This is funny because it's reminding me of being in graduate school and sitting in an advanced abnormal psychology class, and we were studying the DSM. And I'm sitting there just diagnosing everybody I know. Including myself.
You're a case study.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm borderline personality disorder. Because I can be black and white. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh. You can really, really get misguided. And that's the problem. So yes, like you can have a partner who has some traits that are narcissistic. It doesn't mean that they meet the threshold for a personality disorder and you're dealing with somebody pathological. They have some behaviors that are maladaptive that come from trauma. And if they're willing and they're curious and they're they can grow out of those things. We can evolve. So that's the thing. It's hurting us. All this information is actually, it's harming us because it's causing us to be more fearful and to think that we have all this knowledge and understanding that is creating more distance.
Yeah. And I think that's where really, I always go back to like actually working with somebody when you're trying to learn about attachment theory, when you're trying to learn about boundaries, whatever it is, like insert anything here, because of a couple reasons. One, they have the training and the history to actually support you, the knowledge to actually support you. And two, they get to talk to you, get to know you, understand you, and can bring in that nuance and can look at the context of your life and your relationships and actually apply the information with you. Yes. As opposed to just you trying to figure out the information.
Right. And take tidbits here and there and trying to
and
determine.
We can't be objective about ourselves because we always want to be in the best light. How many people do you know have taken the attachment theory test and actually said that they weren't secure? Everyone's secure when they take the test on their own because in their mind, secure is perfect, right? Yeah. So I'm going to skew this.
That happens too, for sure.
Yeah.
And something that I notice too sometimes, I mean, this is getting into attachment theory a bit, but like something I'll notice too, I'll use attachment theory as the example. Like sometimes I see even like there's the other is what's wrong. So like if you're more anxiously attached, well, avoidance of the people in the wrong, because they're avoiding everything. And it's like, well, hold on. Like there's so much nuance. There's stuff in both sides. And not being able to like really have a dialogue about that does frankly you a disservice too, because you're not getting the most support or the most helpful support that you could be getting.
So with all of this, it leads us to the importance of actually seeking outside support with, a therapist or a coach. It's interesting because the life coaching piece, it's like a lot of people just call themselves life coaches. Yeah. And that can be confusing too. It's like, well, what credentials do they have? That's really so really quick touch on that. And then I want folks to learn how they can find you.
Yeah, I think that honestly, my wish for people is to feel empowered. If they're curious about a life coach's credentials, truly ask. You know, like, I think sometimes we forget we can just ask, like, hey, what's your experience? What are your credentials? Like, what's your history here? And get that information. But also, I do think it's important to keep in mind scope. Like, there are some people who have come to me and I've referred them out to therapy because that's the better fit for them. So I also think it's knowing what the scope of a life coach is versus what a therapist is. Like, I can't diagnose anybody. That's outside of my scope. So if you come to me and you're like, can you tell me if I have depression? It's like, no, I can't. But what I can do is help you, unpack your thoughts and create goals with you and set up different systems in your life. And I can refer you to a therapist if that's the real question, the real thing you want support on. I also think that there's a real big opportunity for coaches and therapists to work together. Like, I have a ton of clients who work with me and a therapist, and I love that. Like, I love the balance of that. I think that it's so powerful in that way. So I always say, like, there's tons of different certs out there, but if you're curious about someone's background, just ask them. And, if they're not honest about it, or like if they're not forthcoming about it, maybe they're not the coach for you. Right. Keep looking. But I think be empowered to ask those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lucy, how can folks find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, www.shiftyourstory.net. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok at lucy.m.price.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Kisses, hugs.
Bye-bye.
Bye.